Hi guys, it's Elizabeth from Heartluck Studio. Today I'm going to show you a new face mask. It's a really easy way to make one if you've struggled making one in the past, or if you've had the fitted face masks not work for you. This kind can fit any face structure, any face shape, and it's a really neat mask that I really like. My husband actually probably invented it, I guess. He came into the room several weeks back and showed me, he was really excited, he showed me a really crazy looking mask that he created, looped this big rope around his neck and pulled on these strings and had like this fabric go across his face, and I said, what the heck is that? And I shot his idea down, kind of forgot about it after that, anyways, last week or so I saw a nurse that posted a video where she made this amazing face mask, and I just thought it was the most wonderful thing on the face of the planet. And I got my sewing machine, where I've been making face masks the last few weeks, and went in there and got on my sewing machine and made one of them. And really, I got really excited, and I went and showed my husband, and I told him that I found it online. This lady had made it, and it was so neat. And he said, what? No, she didn't. I'm the one that made that. What are you talking about? I invented it. I said, no, you didn't. So he ran in the other room and grabbed his face mask that he had shown me weeks ago. He got it out and he put it on, and I was really surprised. He actually did, in fact, invent this mask. And it's weird because the perspective, when your spouse shows you something and you kind of just see it a different way than when someone else shows you, or your spouse tells you something and you don't really hear it, and then someone else tells you the same thing and you hear it a little differently. So kudos goes to my husband, Tim Schilling, for inventing this face mask or having the same idea as someone else. It's really neat, no elastic, and it's shaped like a square when it's finished. His was a little different on this portion, but as far as the way that it attaches to your body is spot on. The inside part has a filter pocket opening for whatever kind of filter that you would like. The way that it gets put on, you slip it around your neck like a necklace, and you pull the drawstrings, and then you just simply tie it around your head. And this is how it fits. Really, really nicely. Smooth, nice and snug. I installed a nose piece on it. It looks great. It fits any face shape. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to place it to the side for now, and I'll use it throughout the video to show you areas that we're working on. Okay? So the supplies that you'll need, you can use the pins or needles, any kind that you have. You'll need scissors, a pencil or something to write with, something to measure with. It can just be a ruler, you're just going to be using it one time, or twice, you have to cut your pattern. Either rope or thick yarn. You need it to be anywhere from 50 to 60 inches. I prefer 60 inches, that's what I've been cutting all of mine. Any type of wire, it could be jewelry wire that's thick enough to bend and maintain its shape, or pipe cleaners. They have a bit of a cushion. It would go across the nose. And you will need 3 squares of fabric, or rectangles. They're going to be 10 inches across by 8 inches down. The first one is the fabric that's going to be facing out that everyone sees. I want mine to be pretty. And then the other 2 are going to be for your filter pocket. I'm going to set my outside material onto the side because I don't need it. You will need a sewing machine. If you don't have one, this pattern can be done by hand. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. So, my material is already pre-cut, but again, all you're going to do is get a piece of paper and measure out 10 inches by 8 inches. Place it on your fabric. Use your little needles and poke it through on the edges of the paper through the fabric just to hold it in place. And then you're going to cut your rectangle, the 10 inches by 8 inches, and then cut 3 of them. And then that is all that you need to do with your pattern. Anyways, I'm going to be placing my 2 inside filter layers on top of each other. Make sure that the edges line up. Lay it down flat, and then I'm going to fold it over lengthwise like this. Fold it over lengthwise like this. Now, most people sewing use an iron to press their edges. I'm not doing that. I'm being lazy. I do it fast. So I'm just taking my fingernail and I'm pressing down on the edges to create a seam, a little indentation. So when I open this back up again, I have a little line there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever I'm measuring with, and I'm going to measure 3 inches. Measuring 3 inches up on this little crease that I just made. I'm going to mark the 3 inches up from the bottom and 3 inches down from the top. I no longer need my ruler or whatever I'm measuring with. I no longer need it, and I no longer need my pencil. That was easy. And I'll show you what this looks like. I have a pencil line 3 inches up on my seam, this little crease that I made, and then 3 inches down I have marked with a pencil. That's where I'm going to sew at. So I'm going to place my fabric onto my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew and stop at when I reach the 3 inches. Now, if you're new to sewing, you want to back stitch. You want to stitch forward and backwards by pressing down on this little button here, this little lever, when you first start to sew, and then when you get to the end of that 3 inches. So forward and backwards. The reason you do that is it closes your stitch and locks it in place. It's the same as tying a knot. You wouldn't sew something and then not tie a knot, because if you did that, it would just unravel, and you don't want to spend time making something and then have it unravel on you. So I'm going to sew the other side as well. Forward, backwards. I'm going to go straight down my 3 inches, stop, go backwards, forward, backwards. Raise it up. And then I'm going to cut my thread. Okay. So now I have sewn straight down my 3 inches here and my 3 inches there. I'm going to cut the strings that are hanging off. Now, I'm going to lay this flat, and I hope you guys can see this. I'm going to take one side and fold it over like this, and then I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to take one piece of the other and fold it over again, and I'll show you what that's going to do. That just made it to where this part open, see? Okay? So all I did was I took my pieces and I folded them over. Now, I'm going to sew from here down and from here down on both sides, just so that it looks nicer and stays where I would like it to stay at. So I'm going to do that real fast. So down on both of those so it looks real nice and finished. This will keep my filter pocket looking nice and having a pressed look to it. Now, when I'm turning, I don't have to stop and remove this and cut the string. All I have to do is raise this lever. As long as my needle is in there, then my fabric can just kind of turn on the needle. And I can go the other direction, stop again, lift, and turn. And I'm going to go down this other way. I did backstitch just then, just in case anything were to pull loose in that area. Then I would want to make sure that I tied that knot so that it didn't come undone. It would only unravel in that one spot. Okay, that's done. Alright, so show you what that looks like. I have stitched up and down. My opening of my pocket looks great. Now, all I have to do is take my fabric, place it inside out on top of this filter. So I'm going to place it inside out on top of this filter. Make sure that my edges line up. And I'm going to sew all the way around my square here. I will not leave an opening because I'm going to turn it inside out through this opening, through the filter pocket opening. Okay, that's how I'm going to do it. So, give me just a minute, and I'm going to stitch all the way around this. Make sure it's nice and lined up. There we go. Almost. Alright. Again, remember to backstitch to create a knot when you first start. I might be giving myself maybe a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm not getting too close to the edge of my fabric. I backstitched, lifted this and turned it. I'm going to backstitch again right here just to get it started. And then go straight across. Make sure you do not get too close to the edge. Finish it off with a backstitch. Make sure your needle's in here before you turn it. I'm going to turn it. Start with a knot. Go straight across. And again, all I'm doing is going around this whole entire square. Backstitch it. Turn. And this is the last side. Okay, I'm going to cut my corners, but I'm going to be really careful not to cut my stitching. The reason I'm cutting my corners is so that when I turn this, my little edges don't have any extra fabric poking into them, making it hard to turn. Double check that all of your stitching isn't all the way right up on the edge and isn't going to come undone. So I'm going to double check both sides and make sure that I didn't accidentally sew too close to anything. It looks great. So now, you're just going to poke your hand in here and start turning this around. See? Just like a pillowcase. Poke my finger through here on the edges. Oh, another good use for your pencil is to poke into these corners. Just be careful not to poke all the way through it. Just to get these corners to kind of be nice and pointy. There we go. Very lovely. So if you're an ironer, I'm not, at this point you could lay your fabric flat and iron it down so that your edges are really nice and crisp. I'm not going to do that. Here's the front of my face mask. Here's the back of my face mask. A little string here. Okay, I'm going to lay it down flat And I'm going to take my rope. I'm going to come down about 1.5 inches or so, and I'm going to tie a knot like this. I'm going to tie it twice in the same spot just to keep it from fraying. This is just a soft yarn. You could use rope that isn't going to be too rough. I'm going to the other side and I'm tying a knot twice, just like that. Okay. Now, watch where I'm going to place these. One goes here and one goes here. Okay. Now, all I'm going to do is turn this over, and I want to make sure that I don't accidentally sew my rope in here. So I'm going to bring this close to the camera so you can see it. I'm going to set my rope here, and I'm going to turn it in. And notice how I'm keeping my rope on the edge of the turn, and I'll be sewing this very outside edge here, not where my rope is. But to make it extra nice, I'm going to turn my corners in so that my rope can freely flow in and out as I'm pulling the drawstring. So the upper and lower corners are going to be folded in, and then I'm going to stitch along this line. Okay, so I'm going to do that real fast on the machine, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Again, don't forget to backstitch so that it ties a knot. And this fabric now is thicker. You are now going through 6 layers of fabric plus your seams that you have on the inside. You can hear that the sewing machine is working a little harder. I'm going to take it off of here and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So my edge is turned in. I've gone all the way down and turned in again. My rope moves freely because I've turned this edge in, it created an opening here that's real nice. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to take my rope, I'm going to place it like this, I'm going to turn this, but I'm going to tuck these corners like that, okay? I'm going to stick this on my machine. Do that real fast. Now, there won't be any pattern instructions online for this because all you need is a piece of paper that you measure 10 inches across by 8 inches down. There's no pattern that I'll be giving online. I do have another face mask style that I make. And I've made adjustments to it so it's my own pattern. I thought about doing a video for it, but it's a little harder to do. So, and I'm not doing any of the edited videos where, you know, like the YouTube channels where they're really nice and cute and have little unicorns flying around. And they can crop and edit and get really close up, and they have text on their video, extra words and stuff telling you how to do everything. I'm not that into it, so I don't know. All right, both sides, edges down, crossed here, crossed here. My rope moves very easily. So my very last step to finish this is to put my nose piece in. I'm going to take my nose piece, and I have my fingers at the center, where it's going to be in the center. Now, the nose piece goes where my drawstrings are at on the top. You don't want to put it on the bottom on accident. So hold it in the center, and just turn it sideways, and make sure that your fingers grab it in the center up here. Poke it up to where it's in the very, very top, at the very top up here. I can feel it right there. And all I'm going to do is sew right across the top here. I'm going to sew across the top to keep it in place. Pretty easy. Again, don't forget to backstitch. This will keep your nose piece from falling out. But I'm going to show you an added feature that I do to mine. So, here's the stitching across here. Now, another thing I do to mine, I also stitch straight up here on both sides to keep it from poking out either direction. And then I also stitch over the top of it here and here. I'm going to do that. I will give you a warning. If you do that, you can accidentally go over the top of your wire. If you go over the top of your wire, you could break your sewing machine needle. So just fair warning. I'm really careful when I do it. I turn it and then go to the other area that I want to do, turn it again, and then I go back and forth. It doesn't really add much time, but I'll show you what it looks like. This is before cutting all the strings off. Like this right here. A stitching here and a stitching here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I back stitch with these also, forward and backward. Probably go 2 or 3 times. I'm going to turn it. Because I want to make sure that when I sell these to you guys or I give them away, that it isn't something that's going to come apart and it's not something that's going to be frustrating for you. Alright, your last step is to go around and find any of your strings that are sticking up and clip them. Make it look nice and neat, and it will be ready for you to wear. You can put whatever filter you want in there. You can wear it, you can give it to your mom, your dad, your neighbor. Start a little at-home business, but let me warn you, anytime you sell these, a bunch of people will want them from you, and you'll have to turn around and go buy more fabric, and then more people will order, and then you'll buy more fabric, and more people will order, and you'll find that you're really not making a profit and you're sewing all day long. You'll feel really great that you're selling these to people, but if you're trying to do it to make money, it's really not going to get you much of a profit at all. So think about it before you do that. I'm going to show you what this looks like. See? And my nose piece. Nice. I like it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.